Okay, all right. Well, I'll echo the welcomes, that's for sure. And I'm not sure there's ever really sort of a chill time during the year, but I do want to say for those of you who chose to apply for phase 2 of the MHPIF that, wow, okay, applications are in, congrats. And um, I know there's a little bit of a waiting game before phase 2 starts, but I know activities are still in full gear. So as Renata said, we're reconvening after a couple of months. So sincere welcome back to everybody. Our gathering focus today is annual symposium planning. Believe it or not, we're coming up to number 2. So I think the dates are confirmed, February 16th to 18th. 2022, and it sure isn't too soon to start getting our wheels in, well, they're already in motion, but we're super keen to hear your thoughts and ideas on today's call. And obviously it's not a one-shot deal. There will be other opportunities for input, but today is a great opportunity for free-flowing ideas, and no idea is a rotten one. So 2 main parts of the webinar. We'll have a warm-up sort of entry activity. And all of us will be put, no choice whatsoever. We'll all be put in breakout rooms, and there'll be 2 rounds of those just briefly. And that's just to say hello to each other and share any off the top sort of hopes that we have for the 2022 annual symposium. It's just a little bit of a warm up. So then we'll return to the full group and hear some of those biggest hopes. And then the main event is a co-design session, and that'll be organized around some general prompts. So I'm going to pass things over to Eric, who's going to give us some instructions for joining the breakout groups.
Yep, for sure. Thanks, Barb. So I will launch the breakout rooms in just a second. As usual, you'll get a prompt to join. We'll go into one room for about 5 minutes with 3 to 4 people per room. And then after the 5 minutes, I'll throw a little warning message in there. We'll do another room with another selection of people for another 5 minutes or so. And then we'll reconvene after that. So with the number of people that we have, we're aiming to get to about 3 or 4 per room. Just give me one moment and I will get us there. So yeah, please follow that prompt once it's opened up, and we'll see you.
It was nice to see people a little bit closer up. That was great. So, obviously we're not going to have sort of full sharing back. I mean, that truly was just a little bit of a warm up, but sort of like introducing, the other sometimes. If we can use chat, and I don't mind just speak up too. If we can share just a little bit about sort of one hope that you heard from someone else. I'll start with that. I mean, most common, oh my gosh, it'll be the end of phase 1, close to the end of phase 1. Let's make sure that we hear some of the project findings and sort of, how we've sort of evolved over, how you have evolved over all of phase 1, project sharing, right? Be it findings, challenges, ways you've overcome those. So that was a main theme. Another one I heard was that's heartening is the kind of the enthusiasm for the language and the focus of the theme, the growth phase for mental health promotion and helping it flourish, just that, sort of positive connotation. So anything anybody wants to share about what was something kind of cool that you heard about a hope for the symposium? Verbally or chat. So, yep. Project sharing, content related to theories of change and theoretical frameworks for mental health promotion, all parts of phase 2, that's for sure. Awesome. Okay. All right. Well, I think Anetta's going to slap my wrist if we spend more time on the sharing. She's going to take us into fairly shortly. Move us into the co-design session. So, I don't want to, okay. Magalia, lovely to see. We'd like to exchange tips and tricks from one project to another. Fabulous. That was very, very, very common. So we will, point landed for sure. We will also reach out to all of you for not only ideas, but that's only going to flourish with, you as projects really taking a sort of a co-design and a lead role in that. But similar to what the Hub does, we can provide some of the sort of backbone and really support things so that it's high value for you, and as sort of modest preparation development time as possible, but we'll sort of create that platform. So any thumbs up on that? Sounds good. That's a firm commitment and consent for okay, you wouldn't believe what I get through ethics applications. No, I'm just teasing. So what we'll do now, that was just a little bit of a warm up, a little bit of a segue. We'll move into the sort of co-design session now. And few points, very briefly, a little bit of context for the discussion. I was heartened to hear that at least some of you were aware of the theme of the Annual Symposium 2022, and that theme being a growth phase for mental health promotion in Canada, helping it flourish. The dates are confirmed, February 16th to 18th. And the first day, or basically kind of afternoon, early evening, the first day will be for the MHPIF itself, so an invitational gathering or reception, and then the next 2 days will be open, and registration will correspond to that. That hasn't come out yet, but we will be getting that out in the coming months. So in planning this, consistent with the sort of co-design participatory approach, we are seeking input from different perspectives to help plan the event. Your number one first go-to for input here, and the Public Health Agency team is going to provide input as well. Our Hub Resource Collaborative and the broader community. You've probably seen in our updates, Hub updates. And if you haven't, I'm not going to have you, you don't have to raise your hand if you've read them or not, but you've probably seen that we have extended invitations for people to express interest if they'd like to help in shaping in whatever, modest or extensive way the symposium. So we're creating those, kind of roles, reference group, etc. So I think with that as preface, we'll be seeking your guidance and preferences today about the Annual Symposium. And so that gives us enough, right now, we really need to get into some heavy duty planning for the symposium. So, and we'd like to have the most lead time with input from yourselves. So Annetta, I'm going to turn things over to you.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Okay, so for the co-design session that we're about to start, you'll want to make your way over to Menti. And I know a lot of you have already joined us for Menti sessions before. The easiest way to do that is there's a link now in chat that Renata shared, so please feel free to click on that. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen as well. Okay, so can you see the title screen on Menti, everybody? Thumbs up, awesome, thank you. So yeah, and if you haven't made your way over through the link, if you're having trouble with that, you can also go to menti.com and input this code, this numerical code, which is 82135545. If you see the title screen, you're in the right place. So before we begin, and as people are making their way over, just a few notes about Menti, and this probably is a refresher for most of you, but just in case you hear me say a question and it's not the one on your response screen, you will have a message that says the presenter has moved on to another slide, and there's a button there that'll say click to the next slide. You should be then in the place that the presentation is. Another thing you might want to keep in mind is that if you want to be looking at the responses that are coming in, you just want to have two tabs open right now, one for your responses and one for the group responses. Also, most questions are open-ended, and multiple responses are very welcome and invited, so please don't limit yourself to one thought. And please feel free to unmute and respond by verbally if Menti isn't working for you, if you're joining us by phone. So I think with that, we'll move into the presentation here. Okay, so this is actually something that I heard in the breakout room, that one of the hopes is for folks to just still get to know each other. And for sure, this is an enduring interest that we've heard both from project teams as well as those outside the community. They want to know more about the projects. So these two questions are kind of along that theme. So here's your first question. How might the symposium help participants get to know the MHPIF projects? And I'll just give folks a few moments here to put in their responses. But how can we, through the symposium, help others learn about MHPIF projects? How do we get people to get to know, like within our community, but also outside of the community? How do we get them to know a little bit more about us? Okay, so we have a response here, virtual interactive poster session. It's a great idea. And a few more responses. A short slide for each project with 2 to 3 lines about it and contact information on the slides for anyone interested in learning more. Okay, so they're coming in a little faster now. So having projects do short presentations, a gallery walk. So it's kind of along the same themes here. I could even see a combination of these ideas. If every team has the opportunity to present to other teams. So videos, presentations from projects and project participants, a World Cafe, and we have another poster walk, orientation to how need identified, objectives and a description of what they do. So kind of maybe some of that information in the infographics, but presented to our audience. And the infographics are great, but maybe something even more condensed about all the projects and how they are promoting mental health in Canada. So, and another one here, an interactive map page with icons that expand to describe key points of projects across Canada. Awesome, so those are all fantastic. And like I said, I think it's great to get all these ideas because we don't have to just stick to one, we can kind of brainstorm how we might combine these. Okay, so here's the next question. What approaches or lessons from your project do you think might be of interest to others? So again, on that theme of getting to know the projects, is there a set of experiences that you would like to give voice to about the work that you and your team do, or maybe an approach that you're using, or some knowledge or skills that you think others could really, or might be really interested in knowing about? So I'll give you a few seconds to think about that one. And I have to say, I think that the feedback has to the pandemic adaptations that project teams have shared with us has been really positive, both within and outside of the MHP community, MHPIF community rather. Okay, so offering information in multiple languages, adapting a program into an online format, offering sessions online. So keeping balance as we walk on the edge of confrontation and collaboration. Crafting/facilitating online safer spaces. Ideas around maintaining data collection and overall evaluation while program is online, so that online theme. Engagement strategies with newcomer populations and virtual adaptation of the mental health intervention. And our approach to supporting schools that implement our program. Changing the research language for participants, so it's along that language line as well, as opposed to having a focus group, have a storytelling gathering. Awesome. Engaging clients in rural communities, supporting communities with implementation of early intervention tools. Those are all really great. Thank you for contributing those. And we look forward to exploring the possibility of how can we maybe share this knowledge with our broader symposium audience. And if you maybe think of something later on, please let us know. Just email us, myself or Eric, or the generic email, any of the Hub team. Really, we would love to hear your thoughts. This is just, one conversation we're having now, but we would like the dialogue to continue. Okay, so another thing that we've been hearing is interest in workshopping, and specifically workshopping the Hub tools, the newly designed and released Hub tools. So this is kind of the question about those here, and I'm just going to hide the results for now, but basically this is just a selection of the Hub tools, and these are mostly focused on evaluation. So if you and your team would like to workshop one or more of these topics, go ahead and select that. So we have developing and choosing intervention study questions by stage of project development, developing an outcomes measurement approach, feasible enhancements for intervention study designs, suggested minimum tracking for project activities and participants, and then we have the Indigenous inclusion lens for mental health promotion. If the topic, or if there is a topic that you don't see here, again, if you wouldn't mind just putting into Zoom chat or just emailing it to us, we really do want to know your preferences. There's a little bit less space in the agenda for this workshopping kind of format. So getting your input now is really valuable. And just I'll give you all a few more seconds. I see 9 people have voted, so just get those votes in now and then we'll do the grant reveal. Okay, so if anybody hasn't voted, oh, we got one more in. Okay, so I'll just go ahead. You can still vote, but I'll display that. So here we go. All right, so there's a great deal of interest in the Indigenous inclusion lens for mental health promotion. And we've got a two-way tie between developing an outcomes measurement approach and suggested minimum tracking for project activities and participants. So thanks for that. That's super, super useful. Oh, and another vote came in there. So yeah, but still a two-way tie between those 2 evaluation ones that were highly rated previously. So that's great. Okay. Okay, so we're just going to move on to the next question here. So as Barb said, the theme for the annual symposium is growth and flourishing. So in order to make the most out of a growth phase for mental health promotion, we want to help people and organizations see themselves as doing mental health promotion, even if they're not calling it doing mental health promotion. So in this portion of the session, I want you to consider how we can all help to grow that mental health promotion field and community. So starting with this question, who needs to hear about the symposium? Who would you like to see in the audience? Maybe from outside the MHPIF community. Maybe it's an individual or an organization, or maybe it's representatives from a particular sector. All community and family partners should be invited to attend. And faith groups, early childhood stakeholders. Those are awesome. And they're pretty varied, so that's interesting. External partners and stakeholders. Decision makers and funders. People from Ministry of Health. Education system representatives. And we've got somebody, I think, upvoting that one right next to it, education stakeholders and decision makers, Indigenous governments. The service that give MT service. If the person who wrote that one, if they wouldn't mind just saying what MT stands for, that would be great, or putting it in chat. People who have experience in doing a form of the work the projects have undertaken. There is a lot of undiscovered knowledge in this country. Good point. Education and health sectors representatives and Indigenous representatives. Nonprofits involved with youth services. Awesome. And as Barb mentioned, it is an open event. We are able to invite as many people as want to join. And certainly the invitation, you can extend that to your project stakeholders and others that you think would have a shared interest in joining us. Okay, great. All right, so we'll just move to the next question. So still on this theme of growing mental health promotion. So, and specifically this event, how might we promote this event? So in your experiences in running events and planning them and promoting them, has anything worked really well for you? How do we get the message out? And what messages do we get out? Like, what can we say to entice people, especially those outside of the mental health promotion community, perhaps, or at least the Mental Health Promotion Innovation Fund community, to welcome them and help them, perhaps, if it's applicable, to see themselves as maybe having that shared interest? What kind of messages might be effective in doing so? I know that we have a batch of tweets that are just on the deck. We were waiting to get our annual symposium design, banner design. So we're good to go with a little bit of visuals. So there we go, social media standard platforms. Maybe around learning innovative approaches to promote mental health and how they can get involved as projects grow. So tapping into the understanding that people are being highly impacted by mental health concerns due to pandemic conditions. So projects extending the invitation to their partners. Projects can help, that would be greatly appreciated. Facebook, having photo snapshots of the projects roll through the media ad, making it interactive in a way. It's an interesting idea. Thank you. Ooh, giveaway on social media. Virtual newsletters. Use a blurb of the event with a link to the registration so people can get email reminders and a calendar Outlook invitation. I like receiving those. It keeps me better organized and on top of where I'm supposed to be. Not that my agenda is full up or anything, but still. So social media, podcast, radio ads, or interviews. Awesome. Okay, thanks everyone. Thanks for those. That's great. Okay, so that just brings us to the last two questions. And those are do's and don'ts for virtual events. And I think over the last 2 or so years, we've all gained more experience with virtual events and maybe have learned, what makes a good one from a less successful one. So it'd be great just to kind of hone in and harness that collective wisdom for the annual symposium for 2022. So with this question, from your experience, what are some must-dos when it comes to hosting virtual events? So maybe there was some standouts in your mind, and what made them stand out? Breaks, good one. Yes, I will definitely second that one too, because we all know about Zoom fatigue. Hold small breakaway meetings. Having a registration list someone can monitor. Okay, and again, if somebody would like to speak to that a little bit more, I'd be curious to to learn more about that comment if you'd like to share more. Must do, be very clear with instructions, really lay it out when people need to arrive, what links they need to click, etc. in advance so people don't struggle on the day of. Yeah, user friendliness is key. Must have sign language option. Change speakers frequently. Keep to 10 minutes of talking per session. Lots of breakout rooms. Pauses. So again, that breaks theme. Opportunities to interact, chat, question and answers, etc. Small groups once in a while and record the sessions. Engaging activities. I think the more we can have breakouts and folks in them whose role it is to collect the stories, ideas, the better. So lots of, I think, agreement on smaller breakout rooms or formats, and the pacing is important, the breaks being there. Hide audience members and focus on presenters. Barb was so great at keeping things fun and exciting last year. Yeah, and she's gonna be back for more, I hear. Opportunities for reflection. Awesome. Yeah, and just thinking back to last year's symposium, if there's some things you really want us to keep, please let us, or repeat, I guess, then yeah, let us know. But I think that responses have slowed down. And again, if you want to contact us afterwards, we love to hear from you. Here is the last question. So on the flip side, what are some must-don'ts, or maybe some please avoid? And yeah, you might have felt that some virtual engagements, they weren't really engaging, and what kind of impeded that. And maybe that was kind of covered in the last question with the do's, but maybe there's something specific you want to contribute here. Or again, thinking about the Hub's symposium last year, if there was something that you thought, we could probably improve on, we would love to hear your thoughts and suggestions here. So here's a few responses. So the hard thing is there's so much variety in what we're doing. So not trying to get them all under one umbrella. So I feel like people covered this one in the must-do section, but it would be nice to avoid long presentations that aren't interactive or that don't ask for audience input and discussion. Yeah. And I think that's something that we did here as part of input from last year as well, is the importance of the audience input. Question from Barb: what combo of synchronous and asynchronous sessions? Barb, do you want to elaborate?
I'm just putting a question out there to seek any comments or perspectives on, what kind of combination you like of asynchronous, synchronous. Stuff that you can view ahead of time and then, using our time together more so for small group discussions.
Yeah, if you had joined last year, we had a keynote presentation that was pre-recorded and that people were able to view. And then on our first full day, we started our synchronous sessions that built on to the theme and some of the content that was covered in the keynote, and we had some other pre-recorded materials as well. So if you have any preferences about the combination of that, like maybe percentage split or flow of the day or something like that, if you have any thoughts about it. So this person's saying asynchronous is more difficult for me to fit into my schedule. Keep the pre-recorded or reading material short would be nice. Maybe some options for things to watch and put those in a break specifically for that, followed by discussions on different options. Perhaps keeping the synchronous presentations short and having extended, more detailed versions that are asynchronous so people can view them on their own time. It might reduce the Zoom fatigue. So some great suggestions there. And if you agree with any of these, you can just kind of say, I agree with that one too, because even though it's been shared, but you know, if we get that sense of lots of people having similar thoughts, then we know what's up. That's a really strong feeling amongst the group. Oh, so this person just realized I didn't change slides. Sigh, I posted my 2 must-don'ts on the must-do slide. Sorry, I ruined everything. No. But thanks for the chuckle, and it's okay wherever they are. So one of the things that is our standard practice is we'll take this information and we'll report back in an event brief. So if something perhaps fits with another slide, like one of the input response inputs, we'll put it in with the one that fits best, and we'll summarize that in the event brief. And of course, we'll be using it to as we plan the annual symposium. Yeah, so it doesn't have to do with these questions, but anything else that anybody wants to say here, please type it in, and just stay connected with us about it. Like I think I said a few times, don't hesitate to email us and let us know if you want to get involved, or just you have a one-off kind of thought or suggestion. We're here for it. We want to hear it. So let us know. And for today, thank you very much. And I think I'll pass it on to Barb again.
Okay. Wow. That's super helpful input. I'm still chuckling a little bit about oh my gosh, I've ruined everything. No. nothing is ruined. And I guess one of the things I really like about what I've sort of seen and heard is, I don't know, it's just, I don't think it's surprising at all. And it's been 2 years, but 2 years of primarily pandemic times, and the moment is still very real to learn a little bit more about each other, what we're doing, what's happening in mental health promotion across the country. And as Annetta said, not necessarily that's called or identified as mental health promotion. There's so much work that's being done on, and great work on addressing the determinants of mental health, the so-called risk and protective factors. And if we limit ourselves to those who cast it as mental health promotion, then we're probably missing a lot of great exchanges and shared interests with others across the country and beyond. So I'm just going to follow up on a couple of other things. These are truly sort of in the moment thoughts, and just sort of there's actually two sort of points I want to make about the input that you've shared with us on, what to share about, the MHPIF projects per se, and those are, your experiences to share for sure. I think what I saw was a combination of, succinct, high level, kind of, almost a snapshot, saying the infographics those are great, still too detailed to get that overall picture. So we want that overall picture. We also want, it's a both and world. And I think it makes perfect sense. And I think we can do this together, but that broader picture, as well as some of those nitty gritty details. It won't be everything from everyone, but, some selective, this obstacle, this is how we overcame it. This is where things are moving. So, I think that as planning evolves and as we think about the link to the theme as well and what we've heard, we absolutely will be sort of tapping you virtually on the shoulder. And if you don't respond, I'll come to your homes and tap you on the shoulder. I'm just kidding. That wouldn't be very kind, would it? So, so we will do that. another sort of in the moment thought that I'm kind of linking conversations I've had over the last few days, and this will take some careful thinking about how to present this at the annual symposium collectively. You know, at the end, and I put it in quotes because yes, it is the operational end of phase 1 of the MHPIF, but that's a that's a construction of the phased funding program. It doesn't mean that projects end and then they kind of begin again. It's an evolution. It's an ongoing. So I think, I mean, where I'm heading with this is that kind of the perceptions or the questions from those, be it in policy positions or otherwise, those who aren't really familiar with the MHPIF, the questions coming up is more so, well, give us those endpoints, kind of those finalized firm results from phase 1 of the MHPIF. I mean, very legitimate questions, but it means that we need to, I mean, there's sort of sharing experiences, and then there's sharing, okay, what kind of evolved with those experiences? What might be some of those signals that some of the adaptations you did, for example, like we were talking about online before, what might be some of the signals that what you've been doing are making, what kind of difference, sort of with whom? And so my point really being that I think what we need to think carefully about is that, you know, sort of being able to capture the kind of the essence of what has evolved in phase 1 of the MHPIF. And there's also some sort of education that's both subtle and explicit, I think, about even the nature of evidence that is, you know, legitimate and useful to, you know, distill some of the lessons from the project. So it may not be coming across very clearly. It's really a sort of in the moment thing, but I think it's actually very, very important because, you know, it's part of our collective job to also shape some of the expectations about, you know, what others even ask about the MHPIF. And, you know, so that framing and then what we share is super, super important. So, I mean, that's a bit of a segue to one of my sort of just reminders or reminding you about, you know, the and we're going to do this in batches, but you will be receiving an invitation, and of course it's voluntary once again, but an invitation to have one more conversation with the Hub, 1 hour conversation. That's a follow-up from last year. Remember the pandemic adaptation study, and this is an extension. We actually have received ethics approval. The updates have, we've included little blurbs in the Hub updates to say, oh, okay, you know, little flag, you will be receiving an invitation. And so we'll start to get those invitations out this week, and with a hope that probably, you know, sort of during the month of November, especially, and maybe into sort of early December. So trying to kind of capture the moment where we can kind of follow up on, okay, we're trying these things last year, you know, during the pandemic, here's how things have evolved, and some initial reflections too on what has, you know, phase 1 of the MHPIF sort of meant for you, and what are some of the lessons from your project. So just thanks for considering having that conversation. I must say that, again, the feedback we've heard from yourselves, and I mean, extensively from the Public Health Agency and others, is that, you know, they really want these sort of conversations to be extended, and sort of the Hub being able to facilitate this across projects does not take away from your individual stories. Our role is the across projects, and then, you know, the deeper dive and the, you know, the sort of lived experience of each project is absolutely all of yours to tell. So we're trying to combine that, those contributions. So be on the alert for an email coming from the KDE Hub on that. What we'll do as follow-up for this webinar, of course, same gig, you know, there'll be an event brief as usual. And that event brief, you know, again, it's sort of what was done here today and the ideas, but ideas will continue, you know, like super informal, even using little Chatlio or whatever, you know, you've all got your patterns of communication. You've got a hub contact, you know, Annette or Eric, and any of us, of course, are open, but just please don't hesitate to, you know, an in the moment thought, off it goes onto the screen or whatever. So that would be really helpful to help shape this symposium even further. So there will be an event brief. Again, just, you know, lines of communication are open for us to hear from you, from your interest. It's a really delicate or it's a fine line for us to walk sometimes, and maybe I think it's more delicate than it is, but you know, sort of that open invitation, and it's sincere, but then also not feeling like, oh, hopefully that receipt is not another ask from the hub. Like, it's not intended that way, and it's always just, you know, by invitation and voluntary. So I hope you don't mind the kind of invitations getting extended, and you always know that you can say, not today. Right? So I just want to remind you of that as well. So with that, we just have, you know, if there's any sort of other thoughts that you have, I haven't been paying attention to anything that's been coming through on chat, but I'm sure, I mean, we'll capture all of that as well. If there are any other sort of top of mind thoughts you want to share in chat, if you want to unmute and share with the group, we've got just a couple of final minutes before we close out. I'll also extend that invitation to other members of the hub if there's anything else that I've forgotten or that you want to expand upon for today. Annetta, no other questions from you about what came in?
Well, I was just seeing there's some more comments in the chat that will also include as part of when we kind of go to synthesize the results. So thanks very much for those. Yeah. I think there was some votes for Barb's wellness wiggles.
Yeah, I think that this this comment, I'm reading it now, but oh my goodness, yeah. I mean, we would really appreciate, even if you have off the top thoughts right now for the chat, your final sort of you know, punting of an idea. There's a lot of talk in general about sort of project clusters, certain themes that are, you know, sort of important, anything that's across projects. So any of those that are top of mind for you, or you think that are kind of meaningful topics that it can involve a few projects, we welcome any ideas on those as well. There's no perfect clusters, of course, and we're actually thinking that we can envision some quite nimble, almost round tables on different topics, you know, round virtual tables. So, you know, that's something. Oh, love it. Lisa, mental health promotion literacy theme. It's very interesting. This is something that had lots of conversations with the Public Health Agency. I think, you know, there's a huge focus on mental health literacy, mental health promotion within that literacy is absent. So that's a real, you know, niche role. We don't want to hive off promotion from the whole continuum, mental health continuum, but position it within that continuum so that we don't default to, I mean, services are very, very important, but that we don't default to that as the exclusive domain of mental health. I mean, that's sort of, I know, commonly shared amongst this group, but that's not the norm. And I think an annual symposium that can attract others, again, it's that combination of both sharing and, you know, some education too about what is mental health promotion. So mental health advocacy as a pathway to better mental health. So it's just absolutely, yeah. And that's the promotion aspect, more of that advocacy. Awesome. Okay. That's terrific. Well, I want to be mindful of everybody's time. A little bit of a going, gone, but thank you so much for joining today. It really is nice to see everybody after what I hope has been a, and still continues to be a, some of the Canadian summer, and we will absolutely connect again. As I say, you'll be getting an email about the invitation for another conversation with the hub, and Yeah, so thank you. And I think for now, for today, we'll close the session. And thank you, Annetta, for your efforts in leading today's co-design session as well. Thanks all.